Greetings and salutations, fellow investors. Welcome to another Marketing Monday. I'm here with my irreverent, knowledgeable, trusted sidekick, Mr.
You're irrelevant.
Did I say irrelevant? I meant irrelevant. Did I say irreverent? I should have said. Anyway, needs no introduction, Mr. Dev Horn. And this week we are going to discuss a topic that I think is probably the most important topic that we have discussed to date, and that is connecting with motivated sellers.
Yep.
And I really can't think of anything more important than having that connection with that home seller, because at the end of the day, that's the only way you're going to get a contract, which leads to a check.
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing something,
I think
there's really not anything more
we've done
important
some
than that,
shows. I
you know?
think the content's been really important and really good, but
Just kind of
you're
touched
right.
on it, right?
If
I
you
mean,
don't,
we never
if
really
you don't
went
make that
deep.
connection with the seller,
Done,
you
man.
never get the contract, and so
you're done.
nothing happens, right?
Yeah,
But, and one of the things that we were talking a lot about, kind of what the topic was, and we were going between the questions and then listening and and that kind of stuff, and we realized that that's all part of the connection that you make.
Oh, man.
It's the questions you ask, the dialogue you establish, the rapport,
Absolutely.
how you actively listen. And so let's
And,
talk
I
about
think
those things.
listening, you have to be an active listener. And I think what happens is because I know that, I've been in direct sales for over 30 years now, not just in real estate, but many, many other industries, done sales training, been top agent in multiple insurance companies. So, I know the game of sales, and I know that that's really what we're in here, where you're a marketer and you're a sales professional in this industry. And listening is so vitally important, but very few people understand how to listen because they're so concerned about what they're going to say next, or they're talking to the seller and they hear wah, 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 that, Charlie Brown's teacher is all they're hearing, and they're thinking about the number in their head that they want to get for the house when they're not even listening to what the seller is telling them. And it's really about that connection. And, people pick up on that. The sellers pick up on that. When they know that you're not listening, they can sense it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that day to day, even in interpersonal relationships, you can sense when someone is really not listening to you.
And one of the ways that we talk about it is active listening. So the way that someone knows that you're actively listening is you reflect back certain words. So we want to put this into the context of a motivated seller. And I'll just give you a quick example in that, I'm meeting with a couple, and they're talking, and they mention they have a couple of kids. And I said, "Oh, really? What are their names?" And it's like Marcy and Tom. And then as we're walking through the house, I see a bedroom. It's obviously a boy's room.
Right.
And I say, "Oh, is this Tom's room?"
Yep.
And so basically, this is Tom or Tommy's room. Whatever, there was this little connection made that he knows the name of my child, and so it's a little simple thing to throw that kind of stuff, weave that back into the dialogue.
I really think it's not really even about the house. It's about the seller. It's about the person, their family, their interest. Because at the end of the day,
the reality is the house is a means to an end for probably a larger issue that most of the people that we talk to are dealing with. It could be a financial issue, a medical issue, just job loss, or whatever has, or maybe it's just an inherited house and it's costing them money to keep it. But there's a bigger issue going on, and so part of what you will hear, as your dialogue, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the questions here in a minute, but as you dialogue with people, as you'll hear, that reason. You often hear kind of what the pain is.
Right.
The bigger,
It's
the higher
I
level
think
pain.
it was Zig Ziglar said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It was either Zig or Jim Rohn. And
Josh fact checks
is,
everything we
that
say,
is
and
so
then he
true.
puts
Yeah,
little words
checks,
at the
Jim
bottom and
Rohn or
say, that's
Zig
not
Ziglar.
true.
But anyway, I said it. I said it.
One of those two guys.
But it's so true that, why, when you start just spewing numbers at them, right off the bat, why, do they really think that you care? This guy's just in it for the money. He's just, he's trying to take my house. if you don't build that rapport with them and ask the right questions and listen to what they say when they give you the answer, I mean, no wonder so many deals are lost and dropped.
I think, a lot of people listening to this, and we've noticed even with well-established investors,
Yep.
they'll ask things
That's
like,
right.
hey, do you guys have a good script, or what questions you ask, or how do you try to handle the call versus the meeting at the house? And so we do want to talk a little bit about the questions. I think we kind of started by talking about listening as being maybe the most important thing, because, yeah, it's important to ask the right questions, but listening, actively listening, reflecting back, showing, empathy. These things are super, super important. They may be more important than the
let me tell you.
Kind of,
let me cut to the brass tacks. Let me tell you how important it is. Let's say an investor gets 20 leads, and this could be one of our licensees. Let's say one of our licensees gets 20 leads. One is incredibly proficient at what we're talking about. They're asking the right questions. They're listening to what the seller's telling them. Versus someone who's done it the way they've always done it. They go to the questions that are more about the house than about the seller. I can guarantee you that out of those 20 leads, the licensee or the investor that understands what we're talking about, they'll close 3 to 5 of those deals. 3 to 5 of those 20. The one who doesn't know how to ask the right questions and listen intently, goose egg, scratch. They may get 1 out of 20.
Yeah.
And then but do you see the disparity there between the two? It's a difference between someone doing multiple 6 figures a year and maybe 80 to 100 a year in wholesaling, or even if they're flipping.
Yeah.
Because it all comes down to
you've said it before, I believe, in these videos, that ultimately people will sell you their house because they like you. And they will like you because you seem to like them and care about them.
That's right.
So it's at the end of the day, it is about the house and the numbers and all that stuff, but the people make decisions based on emotion.
Right. If you've built a bond with someone, they will take $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 less because they like you. And although that doesn't make sense intellectually, this is an emotional decision. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yeah. And in many cases, they're not emotionally... They're when I say emotional, I mean between you and the seller. They either like or they don't. But when it comes to let's say it's an inherited home, you go, well, how could someone take 20 or 30 grand less for the house? Well, it was an inherited house. They ruined it. So they're making their decision based on the relationship, not that piece of property. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I've felt before, in doing a deal with a homeowner that liked me, that they wanted me to do well. And
how could they not? I mean, look at it.
No, me or you or you?
I know, right.
Look, if somebody likes you, they want you to do well. They want to see you succeed and be happy. Yes. And so even somebody that you just met and somebody you have a service relationship with. Now, let's turn to
sincerity.
Let's turn and talk about the questions, because I think some people, kind of particularly if you're newer, knowing the right questions is really important. And in my mind, this isn't going to be a good term, but hard questions and soft questions. Mm-hmm. The hard questions are the ones, I don't mean hard like difficult, but hard like they are actually the tactical questions that you need to ask to get data about the thing. And the soft questions are more like, oh, I see you have kids. How many kids do you have? What are their ages? Well, I see you play baseball. All right, and it's kind of like soft stuff, okay? Now, first I want to talk about the hard side. Obviously, when we're on the phone, we find out who that person is, and they're going to say something like, yeah, I'm interested in selling my house. And so you're going to say, where's the house located? They're going to give you an address, right? We then typically, either they will begin to volunteer, or we will then say, why are you moving? And then you'll hear, I got a new job, blah, blah, blah. This isn't my house. I inherited this house, blah, blah, blah. Right. What is your timeline, right? Why are you moving and what is your timeline? The motivation will appear in the answer to those two questions. I'm in a super hurry because this thing happened. That's why that's why I'm calling you. Number 3 then, and you can kind of already, we're starting to feel like whether this is a fit, right? Number 3, what is the condition of the home? Can you tell me a little bit about it? Is it in great shape or does it need a lot of work? And so I'll kind of throw great shape or need a lot of work.
And it's not an interrogation either. The way he's doing this, it's not interrogatory at all. It's methodical, but it's friendly, right? It's not like, so what do you think your house is worth?
I'm throwing out, or what do you, so now I do go to that. Now, after I have begun to establish the why, what is your timeline, and the what is the condition of the home, I do want to go into the 3 number questions. But before I do that, Mike and I were talking about this earlier. When I was early on in this career, I would get to people's houses, and I was so eager, and talking to them on the phone. I just get their name and address, and can I come now, right? I'd be driving over there. I'd get over there, and this was a question I found out I wasn't asking. Are you the owner of the home? I can't tell you. I know it's at least 2 or 3 times I drive out there and I'm so excited and I'm talking to Bill and I find out Bill's the uncle of the elderly gentleman who owns the home and he cannot sell me the house. Right. And whereas the elderly gentleman's over in another city.
Exactly.
And or are you the owner of the home? Yes. So just yourself? No, actually, I own it together with this
3
other
siblings.
Person, right? Well, so one of the questions you're probably going to want to ask then in that dialogue is, well, if you say, well, no, I own it together with my wife.
Right.
Well, then the question's going to be, well, will both of you be there when I come out? I can't tell you how much time this saves to figure out do they own it. Who do they own it with, and will that other party be there?
Yes, because just because they're the executor doesn't, it means, yes, technically they're the decision maker, but it doesn't mean that they don't have brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles.
They can be the executor of an unprobated estate that has 17 heirs. Just at some point weave in the question of, hey, do you own this house we're talking about? Because that would burn me.
It's somewhat important in the scheme of things.
I do want to talk about the 3 number questions. Different people do this in different ways. You may have already found a great way that works for you. But I learned this one, I think it was from like Michael Quarles or somebody. It was 3 steps. So, man, this sounds like a nice house. What do you think that house would be worth if it was in perfect condition? If we came and fixed everything that needs to be done, what do you think it'd be worth in perfect condition? This is what I call the first number. They might say, I think it'd be worth 200. And then you'd say, well, okay, that's awesome. Well, now you did tell me it needed a little bit of work. So what do you think that the house is worth right now in its current condition? And then they'll go, well, I think it's probably worth 180, 175, because they're thinking it needs a new roof, it needs a paint job and all that stuff. The third question then is, okay, that's great. Can I ask you, have you thought about what's the least you would take for it? I mean, if a number that if I came over there today and I could meet that number, you'd probably be ready to move. And the idea is that these kind of, you're stair-stepping down from the big number to the current value, which is always inflated over what it's really valued. I hate to say it to homeowners, but they don't know how much houses are worth or how much repairs cost.
No.
And so ultimately, we get down to the number I think that really matters, and that's what would they take for it. Like, what is that number? But if you start with what's the least you would take for your house, you have not given them an opportunity to say the higher numbers.
Right.
I think it could be worth $1 million. It's currently worth $100,000. I'll take $10,000 if you'll just come over today and give it to me. So it's like the reality is we behaviorally imagine the value of the house in excellent condition.
Right.
We have a sense of what it would take to fix it, but we're always underestimating the repairs for the homeowner. And then finally, the real number is, if I could just get 142 for that place, man, I'd do this deal. Now, they know that number usually.
Most of the time they do.
Unless they're just, hunting
a lot of times,
around.
Right. And they will try to get you to give a number because it's just smart on their part. Well, tell me how much you'll pay me for it. Just, but they've got a number. Even if they say they don't have a number, they've got a number.
Now, I personally do not give numbers on the phone because I haven't seen the house.
Right.
And, now sometimes I might say, particularly if, as we're talking, I'm in front of my computer and I'm looking at the house, looking at the county records, and I might say, oh, really? So 142. So basically what you're saying is if I drove out there and you and your wife are there and I can offer that 142, that you'd be ready to do this deal. And you can begin to start to pre-close a deal. Right. Now, you may get out there and find the house isn't even close to it, but you conditioned it. Like,
yeah, you did.
If I drive out there and your wife is there, both the decision makers, and I give you that number you just said to me, is this...
You want it right.
Is this something that you're ready to do?
It's
because they might say at that
point,
well, think about it, I haven't pinned him down. I'm just saying, if I come out, if I do that number, if your wife is there, are you ready?
Exactly.
And if he says yes, you've kind of got
a commitment to some degree.
Commitment.
Yeah.
If he says no, oh really? Why is that? And I remember you told me earlier that you're in a super big hurry. What is it that's going to keep you from making a decision?
What's snag going to be?
I'm not trying to find all that out. There's just kind of the different ways it can go. But, I think it's really important to find out if they own it, who the decision makers are, and to allow them to tell you a few numbers. Not just one number, because if you just say, what do you want for it, it's going to be somewhere in the middle of those numbers that we were just talking about. It won't be that bottom number.
And in between that structure, that linear approach, you weave in things like, what do you do for, what's your occupation? If you don't mind me asking, do you have
those are the soft questions.
Right, those are the most important questions.
And, I think
it's critical.
For establishing rapport, you're right. Yes. And the other thing is, as you are trying to systematically get, why are you moving? What's your timeline? What's the condition? What are your three numbers? If you're weaving in some of this stuff, like, oh, I see you have a tennis trophy. You play tennis, and really, and you find out all of a sudden it's the most important thing in the guy's life. Well, he'd love to sit there and tell you a little bit about his tennis career, or his occupation, or whatever it may be, and so. Or the fact that they've got kids in the choir or on the baseball team or something like that. These things, like you say, these are soft. These aren't going to be the things that close the deal. They're the things, though, that establish the rapport.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the guy is starting to think, wow, this guy cares about me. He asked me about my kids, asked me about my job, asked me about, whatever.
And when they're talking, though, listen to them. You mentioned something about, oh, gee, I see you have a tennis trophy there. You must really love tennis. And then he answers, said, yeah, okay. And then you're on to the next. Or, yeah, I like tennis too. Then you're on to the next thing.
Yeah, tennis.
But you let him elaborate a little bit about the doubles match in 1973.
Or runners, runners. They love to talk about the last half or full
marathon or whatever that they ran. Let them elaborate.
I saw that one time on the guy's cars, like the 26.2 or 13 or whatever it is. I'd say, I'd come in and say, oh, I see you're a runner.
Yeah.
They always love to talk about running. I don't know why it's just running.
They do.
But runners
most people love
to
talk
about the stuff they love.
Yeah, they do. I mean, some are very analytical, but for the most part, they want to tell you, about what they do, their kids, their life.
I'd avoid religion and politics.
Yeah. I mean,
just avoid those things.
I mean,
you don't need to get into a religious or political debate. That will probably kill a deal.
Yeah, because maybe there's a "Make America Great Again" hat over here, but that's one that he's took from somebody, took from his ne'er-do-well, cousin or something, and said, "Never wear this hat in here again." Yeah. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful.
But I do think if you guys are taking notes, like those hard questions, that's a terrible name for that. The questions that you ask to get data versus the questions you ask to get more of the interest or these other things. They really do balance each other out. And I have listened to calls before where people are going on a script. And guess what? The script doesn't have ask about his job, ask about, kids, whatever. And they're just like, bam, bam, bam. Why are you moving? What's the condition?
It is like an interrogation.
Well, you know what? It sounds like
it gets so
call
bad.
Center. And anytime somebody,
it does.
If somebody perceives that you are reading from a script, it will be a short phone call, right? Because here's the idea. Homeowners, if you're a real estate person and they've called you particularly, they do not expect to hear you reading from a script. They're going to think that you know real estate. They're going to think that you know their neighborhood, their city. They're going to think that you can have a conversation with them that's not scripted. Right. Now, one of the things, and I may can start to wind this down, but one of the things that you and I talked about was making a sheet that kind of has these questions. What's their name? What's their address? Are they the owners? Who else is involved in ownership? And then the 3 questions. Why are you moving? I'm looking at my notes. What's your timeline? What's the condition of the home? And then the 3 questions on what do you think it's worth perfect? What do you think it's worth now? What's the least you'd take? That I'd put down the left side. And on the right side, I would have things like kids, interest, occupation, things like that. And if you just took a 1-pager like this, and every time you got on a call, you'd have your script down the left side, and on the right side would kind of be the reminders to just ask a few questions. Or if the guy mentions, we have 3 children, we just had a baby, there's not enough rooms in the house now. Just had how many kids do you have? And so it might be a little weird to start asking their names, but he's got 3 kids. They just had a baby. Exactly. His wife's name is Mary. And if you start writing these things down on that sheet, you can also put those into your
There was a famous CEO named Harvey Mackay. He wrote a book called Swim with the Sharks without getting eaten alive. And he had what's called the Mackay 66. And those were 66 questions that his agents, they were mandated to ask those questions. They were data points on every client that they had. Yeah. 66. So when someone called back in, they knew their kids' names, their dogs' names. I mean, they had so much data, and their business thrived because people it's like going into a restaurant and they remember you.
Yep.
And I mean, there's a couple of restaurants here I walk in, they know exactly what I want, they know me. I go sit myself. I just walk in and get a table. And so it's a great feeling when and so I think we'll wrap it up, but I think that we're just trying to explain how critically important it is to build that bond to the degree that you can. And everybody's personality is a little bit different, but you learn over time how to feel people, and are they actually conversing with you, or are they more reserved, and that's okay. And another thing too, real quick, is if you've got someone on the phone and you want to mirror to some degree, not to a point that it's creepy, but if they're a slow talker, I mean, you don't want to be going 90 miles an hour. If they're a fast talker, you don't want to just little things like that.
That's
right?
a good point.
And it's really important because you're gonna butt heads, as odd as that sounds, but you need to really listen. If you've got someone who's talking a little bit slow, you don't want to just run over them.
Well, I've even heard
it can kill a deal.
I've even heard that, particularly here in Texas, some people have a really strong accent, East Texas accent or whatever.
Hey, watch it.
And
I resemble that remark.
But I think I even heard one time that match their cadence, and I've just noticed that if I'm talking to a homeowner and they've got that kind of heavier Texas accent, within the 30 minutes, I'm talking a little bit more twangy.
You do.
Because I just want to get even. I want to be at whatever that level is of just dialogue and discussion, including the tone, the cadence.
You want to become a chameleon to the degree that you can without being over the top.
And without being
creepy about it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, naturally, if you're talking to someone, and I'm a relatively fast talker, but if I'm talking to someone who's pretty, they're about half the speed I am, I mean, I always slow it down. For one reason, I want them to understand and comprehend what I'm talking about, for one thing. Because, a lot of these people, let's face it, they're in distress. They've got a lot going on. And last thing you want to be is, this kind of the stereotypical fast-talking, slick guy that's just there to get their home.
Yeah.
Because that's not what we're about, right?
I think, it gives people confidence when, you're professional, but it makes them comfortable when you're personal. And if you can get them to realize that you actually care, they want to do business with people that care.
They do.
That care about them, care
That's
about their
it.
situation. So this idea of actively listening, asking the right questions, asking those soft questions as
Yep.
well, and not only just asking them, but noting the answers and maybe weaving those answers back into your dialogue. Those are very powerful things.
Right, so that it flows just like a conversation you would have with a friend. That's what you want at the end of the day.
Yep.
That if you were sitting at Starbucks with someone conversing, that's the dialogue that you want to take.
Yep.
Okay, it's not an interrogation. It's not a Q&A session. It's a conversation to see if you can help that seller.
Good.
That's what it's about. I think
beat
we
this one
covered
up.
that. I know. Pow, pow, pow. Anyway,
All right.
it's
a good
stuff.
topic. Yeah, I love this topic.
Anyway, so I guess
the
we'll
art of the
see you
deal.
on yeah, it is. It's important stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, till next time, guys. Go out there, close some deals. All
All
right.
right, let's see you. Boom.